Welcome. We're diving into a really fascinating reading of the Quran that focuses on one single critical condition for whether or not a good deed is accepted. And let me tell you, it's an interpretation that really challenges some common ideas and puts forward a universal standard for justice. It's a huge question, right? When it comes to the big picture, what's the final metric? Is it about who you are, what group you belong to, or is it all about the actual impact of what you do? So let's explore how this particular reading of the Quran tackles that exact question. So before we even get to rewards for good deeds, the source we're looking at argues that the Quran sets a ground rule first, a fundamental principle for accountability that applies to every single person, no exceptions. This verse is incredibly direct. It creates this uncompromising link between an action and its consequence. And the key word here is whoever. Think about that. It's not limited to a specific group or gender or ethnicity. The principle is just crystal clear. You do wrong, you're held accountable for that wrong. Simple as that. You know, the verse actually starts by saying this isn't about your desires or the desires of any other group. And the interpretation here is that this is a message for all of humanity. It's basically saying that wishful thinking or what group you belong to, it's not a shield. The standard of justice for negative actions is completely universal. Okay, so that's the deal for wrongdoing, but what about doing good? What about righteous deeds? Well, the very next verse lays out the framework for their acceptance, and it all comes down to one specific condition. Let's get into it. Look at the structure here. First, it makes it absolutely clear that gender is totally irrelevant, whether male or female, right there in black and white. Then it gives us that single condition. The person doing the good deed has to be a mu'min. So everything, and I mean everything, hangs on what that one word actually means. And this is the central question, the real heart of this entire interpretation. Because while mu'min is often translated in a very specific way, if you take a closer linguistic look, a completely different and maybe way more profound meaning starts to emerge. So let's break down the linguistics here. We're going to explore an idea that argues this word isn't about what a person privately thinks, but it's all about how they act towards other people. And right here, you see this massive shift. The common view centers on creed, what a person says they hold to be true inside. But this alternative reading, it focuses entirely on conduct, on the actual tangible impact a person has on the world and the people around them. Now, this is where the analysis by Khaled al-Sayyid Hassan gets really fascinating. He points out that the word mu'min comes from the Arabic root for security and safety, A-M-N. So from this perspective, iman isn't just professing something, it's the very act of granting security. And a mu'min, well, that's the person who actually provides that security to others, the grantor of security. So what does this look like in the real world? It's the person whose presence makes other people feel safe, you know? They're trustworthy, dependable, they don't threaten or scare people, they protect people's lives, their property, they stand up for justice, and through their actions, they actually contribute to a more secure and stable world for everyone. Now, if you accept this definition, the implications are, well, they're massive. It completely transforms the framework from one based on what group you're in to one based on universal human ethics. The source argues that if you go with a narrow, creed-based definition, you're essentially condemning the vast majority of humanity, just based on where they happen to be born. But if the definition is based on action, on being a source of security for others, well, that's something accessible to any good person, anywhere in the world, no matter what their background is. This makes the whole thing a really clear two-step path. Step 1, you do a good thing. But that's not enough. Step 2, you also have to be a grantor of security, someone whose character and actions just make the world safer. According to this reading, when you meet those two conditions, the result is acceptance and reward. It's a direct universal formula. And this is really the ultimate takeaway. It puts all the emphasis squarely on your character and your impact. It suggests that the true measure of a person isn't the label they wear, but the security and justice they bring to the world through their actions. And the verse wraps up with this powerful promise of absolute, total precision in justice. That phrase, the speck on a date seed, refers to something incredibly tiny, that little groove or dot on a date pit. It's a guarantee that every single good act, no matter how small, when it's done by someone who embodies security, will be fully and justly rewarded. Nothing gets missed. It's a profound thought to end on, isn't it? This reading suggests that maybe the highest spiritual value is actually a practical one, our tangible, real-world contribution to making this planet a safer, more just place for absolutely everyone.